I have become an international lawyer working abroad. After continuous efforts in college, I obtained my lawyer's license and initially practiced in my home country. It was tough at first, but now I have friends with whom I can easily converse. And I enjoy my life here. My parents live in the US. And now I can afford to send money back home every month. I still want to grow, so I keep pushing myself to work hard. One day, I took a long vacation and returned to the US temporarily. After a long time, my parents and I decided to take a trip together. Enjoying the American air, we took a taxi and headed for my childhood home. The home I refer to now belongs to my aunt and uncle, who are my current parents. I don't even know what my biological parents are doing now. Nor do I care much anymore. Upon arriving, I found the front of the house bustling. Rushing over, I saw a familiar figure, my mom. "Just let me see Candace. It's not fair for you two to keep her to yourselves." At the entrance, there was a commotion involving my biological parents. My name is Candace, and I am 30 years old. Although I live a normal, happy life now, I remember my childhood as a series of unbearable, sad days. Today, I want to share the story of my hellish middle school days. And the dramatic turnaround from there. Back then, I was a middle school student attending a local public school. Our family was the picture of poverty, living in a dilapidated house over 70 years old. I always feared that the roof might blow off during the next typhoon. Both of my parents only had high school diplomas. My dad worked for a small local company, and my mom was a part-time worker. They were unsure about their education, and unfortunately, they frequently vented their frustrations on their children. Academic performance is everything. Your life is defined by your educational background. This was my parents' constant refrain. As a child, I didn't fully grasp what that meant. I studied, but my test scores were never great, probably around average in my class. My parents scolded me, but my grades didn't improve, and I lived carefree. However, things got stricter when I entered middle school. "Candace, what are these grades?" "I'm sorry. You're a real disappointment to our family, aren't you?" When my dad said that, I felt a chill down my spine. I had been scolded before for bad grades, but never this severely. What would happen if I couldn't improve? The fear made me decide to study even harder. I disliked being scolded, but more than that, I felt the need to meet my parents' expectations. But I was never naturally smart, so no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't reach the top of my class. My dad looked at me with disdain. And my mom stopped praising me, no matter what I did. Whether I cleaned or cooked, it didn't matter. "Since you can't study well, these things are meaningless. Whatever you do, you always do it halfway," they would say. Gradually, I stopped helping my mom and devoted all my time to studying. I desperately wanted my parents' approval. One day, I surprisingly scored 90 on a test. I was so happy, I rushed home with the test paper, hoping to celebrate with my parents. As I opened the front door with excitement, "Ryan is really outstanding. He scored 100 on today's test, our pride and joy." I stopped in my tracks at the voices coming from inside. "Ryan might be able to fulfill our dreams. Keep it up." I could hear my parents' cheerful voices. It seems that Ryan, my brother, had returned home before me. Ryan is a high school student with excellent grades, consistently ranking first in his class. He is handsome, though I'm not sure whom he resembles. And he has always been quick-witted since he was a child. My parents have always adored him a lot. I'm home. "Oh, Candace, you're back too?" As I entered the living room, my mom noticed me and spoke up. Happy to be acknowledged, I said, "Yeah. Guess what, I got a good score today." And showed them the test paper. I thought my parents would be pleased. But instead, they frowned. "What is this score?" Not boasting about anything less than 100. But it was a lot better than last time. It should be taken for granted. If you worked hard, you should have scored 100. Why are you satisfied with 90? Their critical words left me speechless. Unable to move, I stood frozen as my dad said, "Don't come in praising yourself when we're complimenting Ryan. Why don't you learn something from him?" Watching this, my mom added, "Honestly, why is Ryan so capable and you can't do anything?" And then went to prepare dinner. I'm sorry. I wonder if my mom heard that. Holding the unpraised test paper, I headed to my room, a cramped space where I couldn't lay out both a desk and a futon simultaneously. Yet, it was the only place I felt safe at home. When did my parents start favoring Ryan over me? Ryan was popular among adults, and even as a child, I realized they compared us. Influenced by others, my parents gradually lost interest in me. Ryan always got a snack as a daily reward, but I never did. Our test scores were clearly different, and it seemed natural for our parents to favor him. But I never resented Ryan for being the favorite. "Candace, let's eat this together." Big brother. Whenever I was harshly criticized by our parents, Ryan would always come to my room. He brought the snacks he received as rewards and shared them with me secretly. "Candace, you always work hard. You studied so hard for that test. But Mom and Dad say I'm no good. If we always act as they say, both you and I will truly end up worthless. Don't take it too seriously. It's better to find something worthwhile to do for yourself. Not just for our parents." Ryan's face seemed more mature than usual. "Do you have something you want to do, big brother?" "Well, I'm not sure if I can actually do it, but I have dreams." Did Ryan have his grievances with our parents too? I found no words to respond, and quietly ate the snack beside him, watching his profile. Something worthwhile for myself. I thought about it. But my desire to please my parents was strong. I considered what I wanted to do in the future. But with extracurricular activities banned and no time to play after school, my world was confined to home and study. Ryan must feel the same. But what dreams does he have? As a middle schooler, I still didn't understand anything. My parents continued to favor Ryan and were cold towards me. Ryan subtly protected me, but whenever we were seen talking together, our parents tried to separate us. "Don't talk to Ryan. Being around you might turn him into a failure too." My dad said this nonchalantly while my mom watched and smirked. So, Ryan and I had to secretly meet in each other's rooms to talk. Even though these painful days almost broke me, Ryan was there to encourage me. And I kept pushing myself in my studies. However, my efforts didn't pay off, and my grades continued to stagnate. Time passed, and Ryan's college entrance exams were approaching. He was set to take exams for a prestigious university in New York, decided by our parents, who were in great spirits because of it. Thanks to this, they recently stopped making snide remarks at me. However, one day, I accidentally overheard my parents talking in the living room. "When will we stop supporting that failure? Can't we just throw her out already? She's still a middle school student, and it'd be noisy to just leave her be. Just endure it until her compulsory education is over." It felt like we could finally breathe after Ryan's path was decided. Supporting someone with no benefits is so disheartening. My dad sighed heavily, and my mom laughed in agreement. They were definitely talking about me. I had been called a failure and incompetent before, but I never thought they would consider kicking me out. What would happen to me once Ryan passed his exams? The thought sent shivers down my spine. Terrified at the thought of being thrown out, I quietly returned to my room and immersed myself in my studies. If my grades improved, maybe my parents would reconsider their view of me and even praise me. That hope made me give up meeting friends and speaking, dedicating myself solely to studying. Yet, my grades didn't improve. And instead, my class rank even dropped. You really are a hopeless case. Ryan is so excellent, why can't you do anything right? You didn't achieve any results, so no dinner for you tonight. Understand? I'm sorry. Despite all my hard work, my parents didn't acknowledge my effort. If results weren't visible, they wouldn't even evaluate me. It must be impossible for me. Sitting in my room crying. Candace, may I come in? Ryan entered with some sandwiches. Must be hungry, right? Eat these without being found. Yes, thank you. Sorry for causing you trouble because of my failures. It's not your fault. It's our parents who are wrong. Candace, you worked really hard, but those two only see the results. Ryan seemed really angry, but that quickly changed to a smile. I better go back before I'm found. Rest well today, he said and returned to his room. I couldn't tell Ryan that I might be kicked out of the house. If I did, it might cause him trouble too. If something bad happened to him because of me. Our home remained unchanged, Ryan was loved, and I was treated as if I didn't exist. Meals weren't prepared for me more often, but Ryan would secretly bring me sandwiches. Talking secretly with Ryan, who visited my room, was truly enjoyable. Eventually, Ryan's admission to his first-choice prestigious university in New York was confirmed. He would have to move there, meaning we would truly be separated. Soon, I would have no allies left at home. Well done, Ryan. You're our family's pride. Keep up your grades in college. We'll provide everything you need. Thank you, I will. I watched my parents cry tears of joy with mixed feelings. I couldn't join in their celebration because, to those two, I wasn't part of the family. As I turned my back, Ryan called out, Candace. Can I talk to you for a sec? It seemed our parents were busy talking to the movers. Ryan quickly came over and handed me a note. This is my phone number. Let me know if anything happens. Oh, thank you. Don't let those two find out. Take care. Ryan left before our parents could notice him. I pocketed the note, his mobile number. Ryan had a mobile phone since high school, but I was forbidden to have one. According to my dad, a failure doesn't deserve a mobile phone. Should I still rely on Ryan even after he leaves home? Can someone like me, who has just been released from family constraints, bother him while he's enjoying his university life? I placed the note in a drawer instead of keeping it visible. Eventually, I passed the entrance exams and became a high school student. At a regular public high school, unlike Ryan. Apparently, my parents hadn't even planned to let me take the exams. Spending money on you is a waste. My dad declared this even though I hadn't asked. When I heard that, I felt as if my life had been doomed from the start. Yet, I was relieved that I could at least experience high school life. But one day, my mom said something unbelievable. We're stopping spending on you. What do you mean? Compulsory education is over. And you should manage high school expenses on your own. Following my mom, my dad also said something unbelievable. That single statement reminded me of my parents' conversation that day. It appears that I am about to be driven out. Pack your things by tomorrow and leave. There's no place for you in this house. With that, my parents looked at me with a malicious smile. Seeing that smile, I packed my bags while crying and left the house. I couldn't return there. I had truly lost everything. Having left home impulsively without anywhere to go, I reluctantly sat on a park bench. Being alone like this, I'm once again hit by the realization that my parents never loved me. Looking back, they never attended school events like open classes. And parent-teacher meetings were concluded with merely superficial conversations. It felt as if they couldn't care less about my future, something I never wanted to believe was truly the case. There were times when a teacher expressed concern after such meetings. But I always pretended to be fine. I never wanted anyone to know that I was being neglected by my family. Perhaps I should have sought help from someone sooner. Deep down, I've long known that there was something wrong with my family. Still, I tried hard because I wanted to be loved by them. But this is the outcome. Even if I don't return home now, my parents probably won't do anything. They might even spin some tales and make me look like the bad guy for running off. I was stuck, not knowing what to do next. Then, I heard a voice call out, "Candace?" When I looked up, it was my aunt who was there. "It's almost 6 p.m. What are you doing here?" Having said that, my aunt sat next to me. She's one of the few relatives who has always been kind to me, treating me gently whenever I was compared to Ryan. She values both Ryan and me. I hadn't seen her much since starting middle school, so it was unexpected to meet her here. She probably spotted me on her way back from shopping, since she lives nearby. Seeing my beloved aunt, I felt completely reassured and clung to her, crying as I explained everything. I told her how my grades hadn't improved, and how my parents had given up on me. I also mentioned that Ryan was moving to New York, and that my parents had told me to leave. Hearing this, my aunt showed visible anger. They are still so childish. Then, she hugged me and said, "Candace, come to my house. Let's eat together." I nodded without hesitation and went with her to her home. "Isn't that Candace?" "What happened?" When we arrived, my uncle greeted us, surprised to see me with my aunt. To him, my aunt said, "I'll explain later. I'm going to my sister's place now." Then she turned to me and said, "Candace, wait here." "It's okay, I'll be right back." She smiled kindly. Trusting in my aunt's smile, I decided to wait at her house. The sister she mentioned was my mom. I realized then that my aunt and uncle had gone to speak with my parents. I didn't want to think further, and just sat quietly in the house. About an hour later, they returned. They didn't go into details, but my aunt asked, "Would you like to become our adopted child, Candace?" Adoption? Yes. We've gotten permission from your dad and mom. All that's left is for you to agree, but there's no rush. Take your time to decide. My uncle added kindly. The fact that they had obtained my parents' permission meant that my parents were indeed ready to let me go. Are you really okay with that? Of course. We don't have children of our own. We've known you since you were little, and we'd be truly happy if you would become our daughter. Seeing their genuinely happy faces made me smile naturally. Thank you. I'd love to be your daughter. Please look after me. We will, Candace. Don't hesitate to keep being close to us as before. Okay. Thus, I was formally adopted by my aunt and uncle, becoming their daughter, which completely changed my daily life. They taught me many things. My aunt, noticing I had few belongings, took me shopping. She bought me many fashionable clothes, and although I was overwhelmed, I was very happy. I, who knew nothing of trends or fashion, learned everything from my aunt. My uncle took me to the zoo and an amusement park, places I had never been before. At the zoo, I learned about the cuteness of animals and the preciousness and wonder of life, experiences I never had with my previous family. I'm deeply grateful to my uncle for teaching me these things. Thanks to them, I was able to experience true happiness. Initially, I called them aunt and uncle, but now I call them mom and dad. They truly love me and are my parents. One day, while shopping with my mom, we decided to take a break at a cafe, and I asked her something I had been curious about. "Mom, why did you decide to adopt me? What brought this on?" "I've been wondering. I'm the only child you have, and I wondered what kind of conversation you had with my previous parents." After a moment's hesitation, my aunt explained that my biological parents didn't want to send me to high school, and had planned to make me quit early to use me to pay for Ryan's college expenses. They threatened to kick me out, but their real intention wasn't to actually do so. They wanted to make me desperate enough to cling to them and do whatever they asked. The fear of being abandoned by parents is immeasurable. When I heard from my sister, I was honestly horrified. I didn't think anyone could be so devoid of compassion. That's why I decided to cut ties with her and welcome you as my daughter. Yes, I had run away and met my aunt by chance, escaping that hell. When you suggested adopting me, what was their reaction? They said, do whatever you want. So, your dad and I decided to just go ahead. My aunt's eyes were as kind as they were then. My previous parents probably never cared about my life from the start. Thinking about this, I felt no deep sadness or despair towards them. Instead, my heart was filled with gratitude for the parents who had saved me. I wanted to do something special for my parents, so I figured I'd focus on my education. I wouldn't push myself too hard as before, but would treasure my time with my parents and find a study method that suited me. Surprisingly, my grades, which had never improved, began to rise gradually. Maybe it was because I now had a goal, unlike during my middle school days. It's better to find something fulfilling for oneself rather than for someone else. I remembered Ryan once saying, "I wonder how Ryan is doing now. Is he enjoying his freedom?" The contact information he gave me is still in my desk drawer. Perhaps it's even been thrown away. Even if we can't meet now, maybe I can attend a prestigious university like him and fulfill my dreams if my grades improve. I worked hard every day towards that goal, and my efforts paid off when I got into a famous state university in New York. My parents were thrilled and even prepared money for my university fees and living expenses. I can't accept this money. We've been saving it for when you go to college. We know how hard you work every day. Enjoy your college life. Told this by my parents, I accepted it. Although I had entered university, my goals were still far ahead. To ensure my parents wouldn't have to struggle in the future, I continued to study for my dreams while in university. Now, 15 years after being kicked out by my biological parents at the age of 15, I'm 30 years old. I've moved abroad and work as an international lawyer. I continued to strive in university, gaining my lawyer's credentials and practicing domestically. But on a senior's recommendation, I decided to go overseas. Though it was tough initially, I now have friends with whom I can easily talk and enjoy my work. My parents live in the US, and now I can afford to send money back home each month. I still want to grow, so I keep pushing myself to work hard. One day, I took a long vacation and returned to the US temporarily. After a long while, my parents and I decided to go on a trip together. Enjoying the American air, we took a taxi and headed for my childhood home. The home I refer to now belongs to my aunt and uncle, my current parents. I don't even know what my biological parents are doing now. Nor do I care much anymore. Upon arriving, I found the front of the house bustling. Rushing over, I saw a familiar figure, my aunt. "Just let me see Candace. It's not fair for you two to keep her to yourselves." At the entrance, there was a commotion involving my biological parents. Why were the parents I had cut ties with here frozen in place? My biological mom noticed me and exclaimed as she approached, "Is that you, Candace? You've grown so much." She then hugged me, tears in her eyes. My biological dad also came towards me. Feeling disgusted, I pushed my biological mom away and hurried to my aunt. "Why are you here? What are you doing?" Shielding my aunt, I demanded an explanation. But the two of them just smiled happily and said, "We saw on the internet that you're thriving as an international lawyer. You truly are our daughter. We're so proud as parents. Come, let's go home and celebrate." Apparently, they had seen an article about me from an interview I had given. It was careless of me. I thought they were not tech-savvy, but they had been watching. Disgusted, I glared at them, but they seemed unconcerned. "How about we go grab a meal? There's a nice Italian place nearby." "No, thank you." "Why not? You must be earning well as a lawyer, right? Show some filial piety." Their cavalier attitude deepened my discomfort. It was unthinkable that they were making a scene in front of the house I had long left. Now that they knew I had money, their suggestion to go to an Italian restaurant seemed like nothing more than a shakedown. But trying to leech off me now was pointless. I knew I had to firmly drive them away to protect my family. Mom, stay inside. I'll handle this. Are you sure? Should I come with you? No, just trust me and wait. I whispered so only my aunt could hear, and though she looked worried, she went inside. Facing my biological parents, I said, "Fine, let's go." I led them to the Italian restaurant. It was a well-known place in the neighborhood and had private rooms perfect for discussions. These two, who were likely never able to afford such a place before, looked around the restaurant with curiosity. We were guided to a private room. Candace, we're really sorry about that time. We never thought it would come to this. We just wanted you to study hard, so we told you to leave with a heavy heart. But we never expected you to become so successful. How is life abroad? We've been thinking, we'd like to live with you. They rambled on, and I listened in silence. What were they thinking? If I hadn't become a lawyer and gained some prominence, they would never have approached me this way. After all you've done, now you want to play family? That's a misunderstanding. We truly love you, Candace. Yes. You are the pride of our family. Don't be so formal. It makes us sad. Their ulterior motives were clear, and I sighed. So it's all about the money, isn't it? Family and pride don't matter to you. I acknowledge your role in giving me life, but I do not consider you my parents. With that, my biological parents showed a clear sign of agitation. What? That's no way to talk. We're still struggling because of the cost of raising you too. You could show some gratitude. Yes. We raised you even though you were a failure. No, you didn't raise me. My parents, who called me their beloved daughter, are the ones who are with me now. I won't help you. Don't ever appear before me again. I stood my ground firmly. Then, my biological mom, panicked, said, "Wait. Don't say that. I did love you, and I thought you were adorable." Really? I didn't know. It's interesting that you could say such things to your adorable child. You never said that to my brother, did you? That's because Ryan was capable. But you wouldn't understand without us telling you harshly. Well, let me tell you. My grades improved after I moved in with my real parents. I was able to work hard because I had a goal. After countering their selfish remarks, I added, "Driving a child out of the house constitutes neglect of a guardian if the child is a minor. If you approach me again, I won't hold back, just so you know." I slammed some money on the table and left the restaurant. The money I left was a severance to end all ties. I had no intention of seeing them ever again. After encountering my biological parents for the first time in years, I felt nothing, no resentment, no excitement. But I knew I would never meet them again. What happened to them afterward, I'm not sure. But Ryan told me that they ended up in an even worse financial situation. If only they had worked sincerely themselves instead of relying on their children. It's too late for regrets now. Ryan told me this. He never returned home after graduating from college and continues to live in New York, enjoying the work he loves. He moved to avoid being found by them and repaid his scholarships on his own. Knowing Ryan was safe was a huge relief. When I visited him once, he said, "I'm glad you're safe, Candace. It's good you found a goal. I'm glad you found freedom, too, brother. I remembered your words and worked hard in my studies." Ryan seemed pleased by that. Maybe it was the first time we had talked so openly. He intends to keep cutting ties with those two, effectively estranged. Like him, I wouldn't reach out if something happened to them in the future. Later, I took my uncle and aunt overseas with me, following Ryan's advice. There was a risk that my biological parents might attack again. Even if I couldn't do much directly, my uncle and aunt could be harmed. They had always been fascinated by the idea of living abroad, and they were thrilled when I invited them. Thus, I severed ties with my biological parents and secured happiness with my true family. Now, as a lawyer, I study every day, work hard, and enjoy fun days with my family. I believe I will see incredible sights I've never seen before. After surviving some difficult experiences as a child, I'm determined to seek out more happiness.